Alright, today we're talking about my song Scavenger, which is written about how I was able to graduate from college without ever having to pay for food once. And it's actually kind of starting with this synth sample I have. So this is something I actually, when I first got Native Instruments Complete, there's this plugin called the Mouth, and it is absolutely ridiculous, and I was messing around with it one day, and I started beatboxing into it. I think beatboxing is kind of one of the dumbest things in the world, so I was doing it as a joke, but then after you start switching with like the knobs and stuff like that, it actually kind of makes something cool. So you can beatbox on time, like to a metronome, and kind of come up with just some kind of backtrack, and everything was actually built from that. And there's even like a synth knob that you can actually have like tonality to it. So it actually comes into a certain key. So I just had that as a loop, and I started writing to that. I think sometimes to really kind of get your creativity kickstarted, it's good to almost kind of like limit yourself sometimes. And I think just doing something weird, something out of the ordinary is a great way to do it. And that is kind of how this track was born, was me playing an acoustic guitar to this weird kind of background synth. So this is what the mouth looks like. It's pretty awesome. I'm just gonna kind of fire up a little bit of what it sounds like when you just talk into it. So right now it's turning everything I say into a synth. You can add like a bunch of other effects and stuff to it. And it gets pretty awesome the more that you do this. There's actually a nonsense button. And yeah, a lot of different things you can use this for. Very, very informative. I know. And that is how the incredible intro to this song was made. So feel free to get yourself one of these really cool synthesizers. So the first thing I actually tracked was acoustic guitar. And I knew it wasn't going to be an acoustic guitar song, but I wanted to just kind of have it in there to kind of introduce the other components of it. So it's really easy. A minor, G, D suspended, and then you kind of change it from the 3rd fret on the B string to the 1st fret to an E. So it's like A minor, G, that kind of D suspended thing, and then E major, and walk it back to A. E major being kind of like the dominant chord of A minor. So even though you can really only hear the acoustic guitar in like the first part of the song, it was actually kind of like the framework that I kind of charted the whole thing out on before I added the drums. I think that one of the hardest things to do when you're recording absolutely everything by yourself is to get kind of like the vibe of a real band actually playing together. I think it's probably one of the most underrated things in musicianship is kind of being able to feed off other musicians, and it's kind of hard to get that when you're just doing everything by yourself. So the way I do it is I kind of track just a bass guitar part, because again, I'm primarily a guitar player, drummer, secondary, thirdly, whatever. And then I'll write the drum parts to the guitar part, okay? And it's just like a scratch track. So kind of what I have here is like... something like that. And I don't know if you can see this, but I started using like dampeners. I have just like a shirt on the snare, which like without it, it's pretty, you know, it's pretty cracky, I guess. And then when you put that shirt kind of half over it, it kind of gives it that like thud, deaden thing, which I kind of like the sound of. Some people don't, whatever. Yeah, but basically, I'm just gonna track this. It's gonna be kind of loose, but really this isn't gonna make it into the last cut. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take these parts and then I'm gonna build with a MIDI track essentially where the hits are. Like, it doesn't have to be exactly like what I'm doing, but it's just kind of like to get the vibe of what's happening, because tracking the for real guitars, I actually like to do before I have the actual drum kit. But when you do that, you lose some of the vibe. Like if you're just tracking to a click, it's kind of hard to really get the feel of it. So I'm going to go through, do the drums, scratch, track the guitar. Well, I'm not gonna, okay, I'm gonna do the drum scratch. I'm gonna build the MIDI track, which is gonna be perfectly on time, and use that as kind of like a more musical metronome to track the guitars, come back and do the kit for real. Another big part of the atmospheric nature of this track was using an eBow. If you've never seen one of these before, it's kind of cool. It's just this little device that has a 9-volt battery in it. You click it on, and then it creates like an infinite magnetic field that you can use over the strings to kind of get like this. Just this endless sustain out of like a single note, right? And I think a really cool thing to do is to actually go direct into some kind of software thing that has like I went into Native Instruments Guitar Rig and then just put an entire reverb wash. So just put like a reverb pedal on there and then just dimed it out all the way, 100% wet. And it kind of just creates this like really cool everlasting thing that, you know, if you don't overuse, just adds like a cool, you know, atmospheric layer to it. So I think that's kind of, I think it sounds a little bit more natural. You can still control the vibrato of a lot of the sounds, and it's better than just kind of like a software patch, in my opinion. And again, really cool thing that you can do with an electric guitar that I always think sounds better direct in than amped. I mean, I've used this with the Mesa before, but the thing is, once it goes full on over like a humbucking pickup, it gets really loud really quick. So the nice thing about having it direct in is you can kind of control it, and I don't feel like you lose any sound quality in it. So kind of, if you're interested in like atmospheric guitar playing, definitely check out maybe getting an eBow. So this is a very heavily affected song. Like everything has like a lot of reverb and modulation on it, and that's kind of by design because it's kind of like a song about confusion. The only thing that is really kind of like clean is this Music Man bass that I've got. It's called Bongo. Definitely super awesome bass. It has a lot of punch to it, and this is the only thing that's really clean. It doesn't have like really any effects on it at all, and it's just a lot of octaves, and it's kind of this one trick. It's like, so it's just like a 1 octave 1, and then you take the 4 and the 5 and just kind of hammer it on. And you can do this on pretty much any major or minor chord. And then to the next chord. And then that kind of just goes on and on until you get to the E, and kind of like how we did with the acoustic guitar, we walked it back to A, same thing. And really, it's just root, octave, root, octave, root, octave, root, octave, A. But again, I'm not doing any open strings, so I wanted a tighter bass sound, so it's a fretted A. D, E, walk it down until you get to A. Kind of a cool thing to do. I definitely, my favorite bass playing is like Motown funk bass, and they just octave walk all over the place, and it's fantastic. What can I say? Always my favorite part, tracking vocals. I'm just going into the AT4050, into Universal Audio 6176. Again, I'm gonna put a lot of effects, a lot of reverb, modulation, some delay. Again, it's about just kind of being lost in a strange place. Not actually about scavenging for food in college. That was another joke. But we're gonna give it a shot. It's kind of a tough one to sing, especially near the end, so it'll probably take a couple takes, but this is what we got. Scavenger, searching the earth, scanning the dark,
turning up skin.